We will get started. Thank you for joining this next version of our series of mindfulness. We will be focusing today on our sensory system. So as we continue through this series, the last one we were focusing on the physical body. This time we're going to be focusing more on the mind and the information that comes in through our external senses, sensory system. Again, using that information to help us bring our personal energy into coherence and be able to moderate it a little bit better. And the importance with focusing on our sensory system is that we have so many external messages and inputs of information coming at us all day long. And as the world speeds up, more and more of that is coming in. We receive through our five senses more than 11 bits of information each second. And the conscious mind can only process one subject at a time, and that's at about 100 bits of information per second. And so if we had to process everything that was coming in, it would completely overwhelm our brain. But even as it is, our nervous system gets really impacted when we have that much information coming in. So learning how to help to moderate that information coming in through our sensory systems can really help to settle the impact on the nervous system and on the brain, which can help to relieve some of the stress that comes into our systems. So the five senses being our sense of sight, smell, sound, and then touch and taste. And some of them, for some folks, are a little bit more impactful than other folks. So as we go through this process today, just know that if this is the first time exploring this piece, that there can be some times where it feels a little overwhelming because it's so unusual for us. So everything that I say is, as always, just a suggestion, and use the sensations and the information that you are receiving from your physical body and from your emotions to kind of guide where you're going to go from here. So what we're going to start with today is coming into a comfortable seated position. Ideally, if you want to stay standing, that's totally fine too. You want to be in a position where you can kind of have a visual relationship with the space that you're in, whether that's internal vision or external vision. So having your body in a little bit more upright position. And then once you have your position settled, and know that it doesn't mean that you can't move, but just feel a little bit more settled. Start to notice the breath. We want to ground ourselves first, meaning really get our energy centered. And we can do that generally through just feeling the breath come in through the nose, land in the chest, maybe even feel it a little bit deeper in the belly. And then as it exhales, you really follow that exhale all the way out through the nose. And do that over and over, just like a cycle, letting that breath flow in, fill to the depths of the lungs, and then letting it exhale all the way out. Maybe even starting to bring in a sensation of a little bit of a release as the exhale leaves. Just do that at your pace for about 2 to 3 more rounds of breath. And we're going to keep our eyes open for the next little bit. And either using your internal or external visions. So internal might be your imagination. It might be how you view the world otherwise. But just bring that focus and name in your mind 5 things that you can see. So deliberately landing on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 things that you can see. Naming them, slowing that process down in the mind. Next, shift to the sense of touch. Name 4 items that you currently are able to touch. It might be the sensation of your fingertips resting on a piece of clothing right now. It might be the sensation of your feet or legs and what they are resting on or touching right now, or the back of your torso. Whatever it is that you notice that you can touch, name them, slowing it down. 4 different items. Shifting to the sense of sound, or how we hear things, the audible. Again, this might be internal or external. And so, noticing 3 sounds, might be distinct in your space, might be very subtle, might be internal. Name 3 sounds. Shifting next to the sense of smell. We're going to name 2 smells that you can currently identify in your space. And then the last one is the sense of taste. Notice what you taste currently in your mouth, on your tongue. It might be something that you weren't even aware of that is left over from a previous experience this morning. And then, now that you have those identified, I'm going to offer what is called a mudra. Mudras are specific positions. Generally, we associate them with the hands, but it can be any part of the body that help us to regulate our energy throughout our body. This one is a hand mudra, a hand movement. I will demo it. If it's not a fit for you, that's totally fine. You don't need to do it. But what it does is it helps us to really bring conscious attention to the 5 senses and gives us the nervous system a little bit more sense of what it needs to be concerned about and what it doesn't. And so it identifies the 5 senses by using your thumbs, and you can either plug your ears with your thumb or just rest it outside of the ear. And then you take your pointer fingers. You can either rest them on the eyelids to help the eyelids close, or if that's not comfortable for you in your space, you can rest them right above the eyelids. And then you're going to take the middle fingers and just rest them right outside the nose. Now, for some folks, if you choose, you can always just give a gentle pressure to the nostrils, just kind of integrate that sense of smell, but I generally just rest them gently there. And then the next 2 fingers are going to be identifying that sense of taste. So then they're going to close the mouth. So it's called the 5 gates. And using your fingers, you're going to close the 5 gates of the sensory system so that you can really bring that attention and focus internal. We're going to hold this for about 5 rounds of breath. You might be quicker or slower than mine, totally fine. And again, if you choose not to use the hands, all you're going to do is rest with the hands down and breathe and bring that focus fully internally, ignoring all of the sensory, not necessarily ignoring because our brain can't do that, but identifying when you can bring the attention back to the breath and not focus on the external inputs from the sensory system. So go ahead, get yourself set up in whichever position you prefer. And then breathe. notice what you notice, and each time the mind might wander, bring it back to the breath. You're going at your pace. Whenever it is time for you to release the hands, go ahead and do so. If it's comfortable for you to leave the eyes closed, I'm going to sit in silence now for another 3, maybe 5 rounds of breath, and just notice what you notice. Is there anything that bubbled up mentally, emotionally, or physically when you started to give a little bit more management to the 5 senses? For your next 2 rounds of breath, notice the rhythm of the heartbeat. Notice any physical sensations. And use the breath, slowing it down, to slow down the heart rate and keep that nervous system regulated. And knowing that at any point in the day, if the sensory system's getting overwhelmed, this is something that we do have a little bit more ability to manage than we generally give attention to. Take another lengthened inhale through the nose. And as you exhale, bring any movement that feels good for you. Maybe it's rolling the shoulders, maybe it's adjusting the neck, maybe it's rubbing the hands together. Anything that feels right and good for you. Adjusting as you come back to that space. Often we feel like we need to attach to the messages that are coming in through our sensory systems. And just knowing that all it is information, and we can choose at any point what we're going to pay attention to and what we're not. And as we get overwhelmed with any of it, it's not a good or bad situation. It's our nervous system letting us know a message. That's all it is information. So have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for joining.